Hey, second grade. So I found out that my nephew Quinn, who is 6, is watching these from where he lives in Colorado. So I want to say, hi, Quinn. I love you and I miss you. And hi to second grade. And we're going to start now with chapter 8. So just as a review, when we ended, let me go back and look a little bit. Oh, the peach had grown and grown so big that it was hanging all the way down to touch the ground. And Aunt Sponge wanted to eat some, but Aunt Spiker said no. And then Aunt Spiker said,
"There's a pile of money to be made out of this if only we can handle it right. You wait and see."
all right, so here we go. Chapter 8. I'm going to move this so I can see the book. Okay, here we go. Chapter 8. The news that a peach almost as big as a house had suddenly appeared in someone's garden spread like wildfire across the countryside. And the next day, a stream of people came scrambling up the steep hill to gaze upon the marvel. Quickly, Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker called in some carpenters and had them build a strong fence around the peach to save it from the crowd. And at the same time, these two crafty women stationed themselves at the front gate with a large bunch of tickets and started charging everyone for coming in. This is how Aunt Spiker thought about the money that she could earn, I think.
"Roll up, roll up!"
Aunt Spiker yelled.
"Only 1 shilling to see the great peach."
So a shilling is the kind of money that they use in England. So you'd have to look that up to see how much that compares to American money.
"Half price for children under 6 weeks old,"
Aunt Sponge shouted.
"One at a time, please. Don't push. You're all going to get in." "Hey, you, come back here. You haven't paid."
By lunchtime, the whole place was a seething mass of men, women, and children, all pushing and all shoving to get a glimpse of this miraculous fruit. Helicopters were landing like wasps all over the hill, and out of them poured swarms of newspaper reporters, cameramen, and men from the television companies. I'm going to show you a picture.
"It'll cost you double to bring in a camera,"
Aunt Spiker shouted. All right, they answered. We don't care. And the money came rolling into the pockets of the two greedy aunts. But while the excitement was going on outside, poor James was forced to stay locked in his bedroom. Peeping through the bars of his window, he has bars on his window like he's in jail, at the crowds below.
"The disgusting little brute will only get in everyone's way if we let him wander about,"
Aunt Spiker had said early that morning. Oh, please, he had begged. I haven't met any other children for years and years. That's a long time. And there are going to be lots of them down there for me to play with, and perhaps I could help you with the tickets.
"Cut it out,"
Aunt Sponge had snapped.
"Your Aunt Spiker and I are about to become millionaires, and the last thing we want is the likes of you messing things up and getting in the way."
Later, when the evening of the first day came, and the people had all gone home, the aunts unlocked James's door and allowed him to go outside to pick up all the banana peels and orange peels and bits of paper that the crowd had left behind. Could I please have something to eat first? He asked. I haven't eaten anything all day.
"No,"
they shouted, kicking him out the door.
"We're too busy to make food. We're counting our money."
But it's dark, said James.
"Get out," they cried, "and stay out until you've cleaned up that big mess."
The door slammed. The key turned in the lock. Poor James. Whew. Chapter 9. Hungry and trembling, James stood alone out in the open, wondering what to do. The night was all around him now, and high overhead, a wild white moon was riding in the sky. There was not a sound, not a movement anywhere. Most people, and especially small children, are often quite scared of being out of doors alone in the moonlight. Everything is so deadly quiet, and the shadows are so long and black, and they keep turning into strange shapes that seem to move as you look at them. And the slightest little snap of a twig makes you jump. James felt exactly like that now. He stared straight ahead with large, frightened eyes, hardly daring to breathe. Not far away, in the middle of the garden, he could see the giant peach towering over everything else. Surely it was even bigger tonight than ever before. And what a dazzling sight it was! The moonlight was shining and glinting on its great curving sides, turning them into crystal and silver. It looked like a tremendous silver ball lying there in the grass, silent, mysterious, and wonderful. And then, all at once, little shivers of excitement, whew, you ever have that happen, started running all over the skin on James's back. Whew, I'm getting it now just thinking about it. Something else, he told himself, something stranger than ever this time is about to happen to me again soon. He was sure of it. He could feel it coming. He looked around him, wondering what on earth it was going to be. The garden lay soft and silver in the moonlight. The grass was wet with dew, and a million dewdrops were sparkling and twinkling like diamonds around his feet. And now suddenly, the whole place, the whole garden, seemed to be alive with magic. I wonder if it's those little green things. Almost without knowing what was happening and what he was doing, as though drawn by some powerful magnet, James Henry Trotter started walking slowly towards the giant peach. He climbed over the fence that surrounded it and stood directly beneath it, staring up at its big, bulging sides. He put out a hand and touched it gently with the tip of one finger. It felt soft and warm and slightly furry, like the skin of a baby mouse. He stepped closer and rubbed his cheek lightly against it. It was soft. And then suddenly, while he was doing this, he happened to notice that right beside him and right below him, close to the ground, there was a hole in the side of the peach. That's the end of chapter 9. I'll read one more chapter. Chapter 10. Oh, did I show you the picture of that? I didn't. Look how large that peach is compared to James. Do you see James down at the bottom? He's so tiny. That's a huge peach. Chapter 10. It was quite a large hole, the sort of thing that an animal about the size of a fox might have made. James knelt down in front of it and poked his head and his shoulders in. Would you do that? I would be afraid to do that. He crawled in. I would not do that. He kept on crawling. This isn't just a hole, he thought excitedly. It's a tunnel. The tunnel was damp and murky, and all around him there were curious bittersweet smells of fresh peach. The floor was soggy under his knees, I bet. Think about how soggy a peach would be. The walls were wet and sticky, and peach juice was dripping from the ceiling. Imagine that you're crawling inside of a peach. James opened his mouth and caught some of it on his tongue. It tasted delicious. He was crawling uphill now, as though the tunnel were leading straight toward the very center of the gigantic fruit. Every few seconds he paused and took a bite out of the wall. It was delicious. Oh, I lost my place. Hang on. There we go. The peach flesh was sweet and juicy and marvelously refreshing. He crawled on for several more yards and then suddenly, bang! Oh, the top of his head bumped into something extremely hard, blocking his way. He glanced up. In front of him, there was a solid wall that seemed at first as though it were made out of wood. He touched it with his fingers. It certainly felt like wood, except it was very jagged and full of dark, deep grooves. Good heavens, he said. I know what this is. I've come to the peach pit, the stone that's in the middle of the peach. It's not a real stone, but it's called the peach pit. It's like the big seed, but it's like a big, kind of like a nut almost. Then he noticed there was a small door cut into the face of the peach stone. He gave it a push. It swung open. He crawled through it, and before he had time to glance up and see where he was, he heard a voice say, "Look who's here." And another one say, "We've been waiting for you." James stopped and stared at the speakers, his face white with horror. He started to stand up, but his knees were shaking so much that he had to sit down again on the floor. He glanced behind him, thinking maybe that he could bolt back into the tunnel the way he had come. But the doorway had disappeared. There was now only a solid brown wall behind him. He was inside that peach pit, inside that peach stone. And that's the end of chapter 10. So you're going to have to come back on Monday to find out what happens to James next. Okay? All right. Have a great weekend. I love you. Bye.